Back on Adapt and Respond with me, RJ Young. Again, if you are new to the show or you just haven't subscribed to the show on YouTube, go ahead and do that. And subscribe to the show on Apple and Spotify, where you can listen to it on your commute to work. If you're riding a bike, you're taking the train, or you driving into work, I hope you're having a really great day. This is the first day of Big Ten Media Days. And because it's the first day of Big Ten Media Days, I wanted to ask this question in earnest. Do we think the Big Ten can three-peat as national champs for the first time since we started adopting this thing called, playing for a national championship with the BCS, the college football playoff, so forth? Because I think it can. Now, I'm going to go ahead and point out the SEC has kind of made this a habit, right? Because you think about what they've been able to do. I mean, I think about 2020, 2021, 2022, Alabama, Georgia, right? Or you could even go 4 in a row, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. LSU, Alabama, Georgia, which kind of is getting to the Brett Lashley point that I'm going to make here a little bit later on in the show. But as I see it, I was asking this question. How many teams from the Big Ten do we believe can really win the whole damn thing? And that is not just make the playoff, that is make it to the national championship game and win it. Along with the other Power Four conferences, how many teams do they have that we believe can go win the national championship right now? So let's go ahead and start with the Big 12 and say 0. Because you're looking at the Big 12, you see great football, you see outstanding tradition. You also do not see a clear-cut favorite to make the college football playoff, which is to say win the Big 12 championship. And you certainly don't see one that could probably go up against these other teams and be expected to run the gauntlet. That is at least 3 games against the best competition you're going to face all year to win the national championship in January. I realize that there are people that believe that this is the year for Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Iowa State, Colorado, Texas Christian. And some of those teams have gotten close. Notably, Texas Christian makes it all the way to the national title game and then gets outclassed by that 2022 Georgia team, which beat them 65-7. Baylor feels like a comer, right? Texas Tech feels like a comer, but Arizona State, the defending Big 12 champion, they feel like a comer, but nobody in that league feels like the team that can go win that conference's first national championship since 2005. Like, that's how long ago it has been. And it's not as if the Big 12 has gotten stronger at the top. It's gotten stronger through the middle at the bottom. And that is not helping as much as we thought it would. And that's why Brett Yormark is stomping on the table for 5+11. And the Big 10, the SEC are saying tough titty, we don't care. So if I look at the ACC, I'm really talking about one team, right? I'm talking about Clemson, because they've already shown that they can do it. They have won the national championship with Dabo Swinney. He is the best head coach in that conference and one of the best head coaches in the sport. After him, you really got to start talking about teams like Miami, right? Mario Cristobal has shown that he can make a team 10 wins. He can get a team to a New Year's Six bowl game, but something's going to get in the way. Either their ball security or his coaching acumen, depending on how you want to look at this. With Carson Beck at quarterback, do you feel like Miami can make a run at the national championship? Not particularly, right? I think they could win the conference championship, but if Clemson is there at the end like they were last year, they've shown they can outclass you. And they did that against Southern Methodist, right, in the the ACC championship game. I also really enjoy Cade Klubnik on one side and Peter Woods on the other. Like, those are two of the better players in all of college football, and they're certainly capable of leading that team to a national championship. There's a lot of Trevor Lawrence in Cade Klubnik's game. It's not Trevor Lawrence, but he's very, very good at playing this thing called quarterback. Florida State, we don't know if they're coming or going. Georgia Tech is decent. Syracuse is decent. North Carolina, we don't know if they're coming or going. North Carolina State's going to be 7-8 wins. Virginia sucks. Like, I just don't see it past Clemson. I would love for somebody to put up a really good argument, like maybe Duke gets through November and we're talking about them being 8-0, 9-0, maybe having a shot at this thing, but nobody believes that even an undefeated Duke going into the college football playoff is going to win you the national championship against these other teams that make up the SEC and the Big Ten. So let's talk about the SEC. How many teams do we think can make and win the national championship Right now, Georgia has to factor into everybody's calculus because Georgia has demonstrated, hey, we can do this our way. We will run the football down your throat. We will play great defense, and we will be unbeatable at home. Okay. I also think they benefit from the SEC championship game being played in Atlanta, right? Which is a de facto home game for them. They play at Sanford, where they have not lost, by the way, since October 2019. It's a team that doesn't need a 1,000-yard receiver. It's a team that doesn't need a 1,000-yard rusher. It is a team that platoons on defense like you read about. So everybody's fresh at the end. You have to factor Georgia into any national championship conversation. They have earned that. I wrote this column last week. The SEC belongs to Georgia until somebody can take it from them. Okay. I don't care that Alabama beat them in September last year. Who was playing in December? Who was playing for the championship in December? It was Georgia. The other team was Texas, team that just hasn't been able to get past Georgia. And that's going to be the real tell this year. They get a tough game at Ohio State. Okay. It's going to be a new Ohio State team, a very talented Ohio State team. Will it be the one that looks like the one we had last year in 2024? Not even a little bit, but we'll talk about them here in a bit. What I mean by that is Texas, they can beat that team, but we're going to judge them by, do you roll into Sanford and do you go get a W? Because that has been a fortress, again, for the past 6 years, and you are 0-2 in your last two opportunities to play against this team. One of them with the backup quarterback coming in late in the game. Still couldn't do much with that. Now, we expect Texas to look a lot like 2024 Ohio State. They're seasoned. They got a lot of guys coming back that you know about. They have managed to keep the core of their coaching staff intact. And they got a really talented guy playing quarterback. They can get CJ Baxter back from injury. Hasn't carried a football in earnest since the Washington game in 2023. We're going to see this team be good, right? Be seasoned, be ready to play. That's why you give them the benefit of the doubt. That's also why you think perhaps they can win the national championship. They're deep enough. They're strong enough. It's, do they have the maturity and experience enough to go beat a team like Georgia to win it all, right? Can they beat a team like Notre Dame? Yes. Can they beat a team like Michigan? Yes. Penn State, Oregon. These are the answers. Yes. Teams we're not so sure about: LSU, Alabama, Florida, Ole Miss. Keep going down here, right? I think that with LSU, you show me that Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks are leading a defense that is mauling people. Yeah, all right, we can have that conversation because I know the offense is going to put up points with Garrett Nussmeier, Barry Browning, Nick Anderson. They're going to be fast on the outside. Caden Durham's going to be outstanding to run the ball. I don't know what Alabama's going to be. I hope that Ryan Grubb makes them better offensively. We'll see if Ty Simpson is better taking care of the football than Jalen Milroe, but he won't be as dynamic when the play breaks down. Okay? I think that we talk about Florida, it's DJ Lagway or bust. If DJ Lagway is playing at a Heisman level for 10 weeks, we'll begin to talk about them because they are experienced. They had the kind of experience that Texas had. They had to. They had a lot of guys get injured, a lot of guys get hurt, a lot of guys have stepped up in the back end. And when DJ has started and finished the game for Florida, they have won every single game. They're just 6-1. Their one loss is Georgia, a game that they probably would have won if he didn't go down with the hammy injury. Now, he's had his injuries, and he's right now in the same bucket as Quinn Ewers for me. You got to show me you can play a full year healthily before I start talking about you as a team that could play for the national championship. So we're just not sure. Ole Miss, they got a new signal caller in Austin Simmons, who seems to be very talented. Led a 75-yard scoring drive in Jackson Dart's absence against Georgia. Do you see how all roads run through Georgia? I'm showing you once again that it begins and ends with Sanford. If you can't beat Georgia, or if you played well against Georgia, we tend to think that you have what it takes to not just win in the SEC, but win at a high level. It's one of the reasons I really want to see South Carolina and Georgia play. Same thing is true of a Tennessee. Just don't know what they got in Joey Aguilar. A lot of variables, a lot of new faces, a lot of new ideas having to come into what is going to be a straight seeded college football playoff for the first time with 12 teams. And then last, let's talk about the Big Ten. Big Ten, I think you got 3 teams that most people believe got a shot here. I'm only going to talk about one of them actually being able to do this, okay? People believe Penn State is the best team in the Big Ten. I think they're wrong about that. Oregon is the defending Big Ten champion. They're in very much that spot of we still have to show we can win the whole damn thing. We got to get to the game and win it. right? Dan Lanning has been building a monster. They're 25-3 over the last 2 years. Since Will Stein has taken over calling the plays, they've been outstanding. They just can't seem to win the bowl game that matters for them to get into the game, win the bowl game, right, against Ohio State to get into that semifinal. And then before that, we got to talk about them winning the conference championship in the Pac-12, winning the conference championship. Well, they didn't win the conference championship in the Pac-12. That beat Kalen DeBoer. Winning the conference championship in the Big Ten over a Penn State team that felt like it was in a game that it shouldn't have been in with Drew Aller, but you drag that team in the deep water, you win. Then you get shafted by the seeding structure, I think, right? The idea that you got to play Ohio State out the box, and even in the Rose Bowl, it just kind of diabolical when you think about it, because that's how the seeding worked out. Because you had to put Arizona State in that game against Texas, and you had to put Boise State in that game against Penn State. Say nothing of Southern Methodist being there. Ohio State right now feels like your best opportunity to three-peat. They are talented enough, they have backing enough, and they have a team of players that have been to the mountaintop and know how to get there and know what it is to play with their backs against the wall. They dug deep, they found a way. Penn State hasn't beaten more than one top 5 team in its last 16 opportunities with James Franklin as head coach, and they are 0-7 combined the last 7 times that they played Ohio State and Michigan, the 2 teams that have won the national championship the last couple of years. But a third national championship for this conference really does put them into the spot of taking away this moniker of the best team, or the best league in the sport. Greg Sankey gets to say that. You count the championships. You count the teams that they get in there. Nobody's made more appearances in the college football playoff than the SEC. No team has made more college football playoffs appearances than Alabama, albeit in the Nick Saban era. And Alabama has 3 college football playoff national championships, right? That's 3 for Alabama. It's 3 for the Big Ten so far, right? Trying to get a 4th here and a 3rd straight. I need to see Penn State get to a top 5 opponent and win, and I need to see them do it with Drew Aller at quarterback. Okay? Till then, I don't want to talk about it. I'm really not going to crown a team that hasn't beaten anybody, which is really the argument that Rhett Lashley is given about the SEC. And I want to unpack that and talk about just how right or wrong he is. But first, we're going to take a break.